The elegant wedding hall gleamed in warm ivory as Ethan Brooks stood at the altar smiling at his bride, Chelsea Morgan. Guests watched, captivated by the picture-perfect moment. But just as the officiant asked if anyone objected, Ethan's 10-year-old son, Jordan Brooks, rose with a trembling yet fierce voice. "Stop, Dad, don't sign those papers. She's lying to you." A heavy silence fell. Chelsea's perfect mask twisted, cracks appearing in her facade. Jordan raised a tablet as Chelsea's voice echoed through the hall. "Once I marry him, the boy's gone. I'll have everything." Before we dive into the full story, let us know where you're watching from. And if you stand for justice, hit like and subscribe for more stories like this. 6 weeks before the wedding, life at the Brooks household seemed peaceful, if not entirely whole. Ethan Brooks, a 42-year-old successful entrepreneur, had built a comfortable life for himself and his son Jordan. Yet, the house often felt too quiet, too hollow ever since Angela, Ethan's late wife and Jordan's mother, passed away from cancer 3 years earlier. Ethan had immersed himself in work and fatherhood, trying to mend the cracks that loss had left behind. He cooked breakfast that Jordan barely touched, helped him with homework that Jordan pretended was too hard, and filled weekends with basketball games and movie nights ending in silent stares at old family photos. Ethan knew something was missing, not just for himself, but for Jordan too. That's why when Chelsea Morgan swept into his life, it felt like fate handing him a second chance. They had met at a charity gala. Ethan was one of the keynote speakers discussing his company's new initiative to support minority-owned startups. Chelsea, a polished businesswoman in her late 30s, with sun-kissed blonde hair cascading in perfect waves and a smile warm enough to melt his usual reservations, approached him afterward. She praised his speech and casually mentioned her own work in corporate philanthropy. By the end of the evening, they were laughing like old friends. By their third date, Chelsea had already charmed her way into Ethan's heart. She was everything he thought he needed: sophisticated, intelligent, and understanding of the challenges he faced as a single father of a young black boy in a world that often judged him twice, once for his success, and again for daring to achieve it. Chelsea seemed to understand, or at least, she pretended to. When Jordan first met Chelsea at an upscale Italian restaurant, one of those with white tablecloths that made kids nervous, Chelsea leaned in, her blue eyes sparkling, and asked Jordan about school and his favorite subject. "Math?" Jordan mumbled, barely looking up from his plate of spaghetti. Chelsea laughed lightly. "Maybe you'll grow up to be an engineer or even a CEO like your dad." Ethan squeezed Jordan's shoulder and said, "See? She's great, buddy." Yet Jordan didn't smile. Something about Chelsea's tone and the way her eyes flicked over him, as if evaluating rather than engaging, made his skin crawl. As the weeks passed, Chelsea became a more permanent presence in their lives. She stayed over on weekends, cooking elaborate breakfasts that Jordan hadn't asked for, and rearranged little things around the house: pillows, picture frames, even Jordan's sneakers by the door, explaining with a dazzling smile, "It just needs a little tidying." Blinded by affection and the hope of rebuilding a family, Ethan never questioned her. But Jordan did. He noticed how Chelsea's smile never quite reached her eyes when she looked at him, and how her compliments often came with a sharp edge. "You're so articulate for your age. Not all boys speak so well, or your dad has done such a good job raising you. It's rare these days." Then, one evening when Ethan was late coming home from work, Jordan, having finished his homework and sitting on the couch watching TV, saw Chelsea come in carrying grocery bags. "Mind giving me a hand?" she asked lightly, though her eyes were cool. Jordan jumped up to help carry the lighter bags into the kitchen. As he set them down, Chelsea glanced at the sneakers he'd left by the door. "You shouldn't leave your shoes there, it looks sloppy," she said in a tight voice. Jordan frowned. His mom had always let him leave his shoes there, And so had his dad. Dad doesn't he mind, he muttered. Actually, I do mind. Boys like you need structure, or you'll grow up thinking the world owes you something, Chelsea snapped. Jordan echoed, boys like me confused, she added, you know what I mean? Though he didn't fully understand, her words settled like stones in his stomach. From that moment on, his guard was up. He watched closely how she spoke to his dad, how she addressed him when Ethan was around, and how her smile faded the moment Ethan left the room. It was just that Chelsea didn't like him. It was as if she had decided he was an obstacle to be removed. Yet Ethan, smitten by her charm, remained blind to the cracks that Jordan saw so clearly. When Chelsea suggested moving in, Ethan didn't hesitate. It'll be good for us, he told Jordan one night while they sat on the edge of his bed. Having Chelsea around will make the house feel like home again. Jordan swallowed his doubts and nodded, okay, Dad. He wanted to believe it, he really did. But deep down, an unsettling feeling had taken root that no forced smile from Chelsea could erase. As wedding plans began to take shape, Jordan realized that Chelsea wasn't merely trying to be part of their family, she was trying to take control of it. The problem was his dad couldn't yet see the truth. But one thing was clear to Jordan, Chelsea wasn't here for love. And if he didn't figure out how to expose her, their lives were about to change forever. It didn't take long after Chelsea moved in for the house to feel less like a home and more like her territory. The photos of Jordan's late mother, Angela, disappeared from the mantel, replaced by sleek abstract art. The blanket that Jordan's grandmother had knitted his favorite for movie nights vanished from the couch, while Chelsea's wardrobe slowly took over the front closet, pushing aside Ethan's neatly hung jackets and Jordan's school bag. Jordan tried to tell himself it was just change, as his dad always said, but the changes didn't stop with decor. Chelsea's presence seeped into every corner of their lives, tightening like a noose. One evening, while Ethan was working late and Jordan was alone after school, he sat watching a basketball game on the couch. His shoes lay neatly by the door, exactly where his dad always told him to leave them, when Chelsea entered with a glass of wine, clicking her tongue in disapproval. Shoes by the door again, she said, her smile thin and sharp. Boys like you should learn to respect the house you live in, it's not a playground. Jordan blinked, confused. But Dad doesn't mind. Chelsea's eyes narrowed. Well, your dad isn't here I am, and I do mind. Swallowing his frustration, Jordan moved the shoes to his room as Chelsea muttered almost to herself, typical. Can't expect much discipline from boys like you. That night, at dinner, Jordan tried to bring up his concerns. Sitting across from Ethan as he pushed peas around his plate, Jordan asked, Dad, does Chelsea not like me? Ethan looked up, surprised. Of course she likes you. She is always talking about how smart you are. Why would you think that? Jordan hesitated. She says weird stuff sometimes. Ethan chuckled, brushing it off. Buddy, Chelsea's just old school. She believes in tough love, don't take it the wrong way. She is trying to help you grow up right. Though Jordan nodded slowly, the pit in his stomach only deepened. It wasn't tough love, it was something darker, something else entirely. Yet Ethan, blinded by affection, couldn't or wouldn't see it. That final straw came the following week. Ethan had promised Jordan they'd visit the community center for basketball practice, a ritual since Jordan was 6. But when Jordan ran down the stairs, game controller in hand, Chelsea was waiting at the bottom with arms crossed. Where do you think you're going? She asked. Basketball? Ethan replied. Chelsea interrupted smoothly. Your dad's got a work call, and I need help with the groceries. Besides, you spend enough time at that place, it won't get you anywhere. Jordan's heart sank. Then Chelsea leaned in, with a saccharine smile that never reached her eyes. Things are different now, Jordan. It's not just you and your dad anymore. This is a real family, and real families don't revolve around spoiled little boys." Her words struck him like a slap. He'd never thought of himself as spoiled, but every time she said boys like you, it stung like a blade. That same night, unable to sleep, Jordan tiptoed downstairs for a glass of water. Passing by Chelsea's makeshift office, the former guest room he now knew as hers, he overheard her speaking in a low, sharp voice into the phone. "So of course it's lined up," she snapped. "Once the wedding's done and those papers are signed, everything will be mine: the house, the accounts, the company's shares. Ethan trusts me completely. He is so blinded by this love affair it's almost sad." A voice on the other end murmured something Jordan couldn't catch, and Chelsea laughed bitterly. "The kid, please, he is just a brat. Once I'm in control, boarding school will be an easy fix." Out of sight, out of mind. Jordan's breath caught. He stumbled backward, barely managing to flee upstairs to his room, where he sat on the edge of his bed, gasping for breath as the truth crashed around him. Chelsea didn't love his dad. She didn't care about being part of their family. She wanted everything: money, power, control, and Jordan was just an obstacle. The next morning, Jordan waited until Chelsea left for her Pilates class. Hurriedly, he entered Ethan's home office, tablet in hand, and said, "Dad, you need to listen to this." Distracted by emails, Ethan barely glanced up. "What is up, sport?" Jordan's thumb hovered over a secret recording of Chelsea's phone call. "It's about Chelsea. She isn't who you think she is." Ethan sighed, rubbing his temples. "Jordan, we've talked about this. I know it's hard with someone new in the house, but Chelsea is trying. You just need to give her a chance." "No, Dad, you don't get it," Jordan cried, voice cracking with frustration. "She is lying to you. She doesn't want to marry you because she loves you. She wants your money. She wants to send me away." Ethan's face darkened. "I'm not having this conversation again. Chelsea loves us, and I won't let your attitude ruin what we're building here." Jordan stood there, shaking with helpless rage as his father turned back to his computer, dismissing the truth without a second thought. He realized then that words alone wouldn't save them. He needed cold, undeniable proof. From that moment on, Chelsea's hold over their lives tightened. It was just that she didn't like Jordan. It was as if she had a plan to seize control of their entire family. Every minor slip-up was met with harsh rebukes, every mistake with a caustic remark. Quietly, Jordan began secretly recording every incident on his tablet. Even though he was only 10, he managed to bypass the parental controls Chelsea had installed, amassing evidence: subtle insults, veiled threats, and overt commands uttered when Ethan wasn't around. One afternoon, as Chelsea drove Jordan home despite his usual habit of walking, she received a call on speakerphone. Glancing at Jordan in the rearview mirror, she said coolly, "Ethan is signing the final documents this weekend. Once we're married, the assets will be moved quietly. Your dad is so trusting he doesn't even read the papers." Her cool, businesslike tone sent a chill down Jordan's spine. With his heart racing, he silently recorded every word. In that moment, he understood that Chelsea was merely a caring partner to Ethan. She was a calculated manipulator intent on seizing every aspect of their lives, including Ethan's money and even his own future. Over the following weeks, her actions grew bolder. She rearranged not only the physical space, replacing family photos with modern art and removing cherished mementos, but also their daily routines. Each change was a reminder that she was in charge now. At dinner one evening, as Ethan brushed off Jordan's concerns as tough love, Jordan's heart pounded with silent defiance. Every word from Chelsea, each seemingly innocent gesture, deepened his resolve to gather evidence. He began carrying the tablet everywhere, tucked in his backpack at school, under his pillow at night, hidden in his hoodie pocket, recording every conversation when Chelsea wasn't expecting it. It was too long before the recordings of her subtle insults and cold threats piled up, forming an archive of undeniable evidence. Then, one evening, while Ethan worked late, Chelsea was alone in the kitchen, sipping wine and scrolling through her phone. Jordan pretended to read a book by the counter and silently pressed the record button on his tablet. Almost immediately, Chelsea glanced at him. Her smile turned icy as she said, "You know, Jordan, boys like you always end up in the same place, jail, the streets, or forgotten in some institution. Your dad's money won't save you once you're out of the picture." Jordan's heart pounded as he forced a blank expression, recording every word. The next day, while driving Jordan home, Chelsea once again received a call on speakerphone. This time, her conversation confirmed the unthinkable. Ethan's already signed partial co-ownership papers. I didn't even have him read them. Once we're married, everything will be mine. Jordan's stomach churned as he recorded every syllable. The evidence was damning. Chelsea wasn't planning to merely change their family's dynamic, she was planning to take everything away. Her words confirmed it. She intended to use the marriage to seize control of Ethan's assets, isolating Jordan completely. Her voice was smooth and almost mocking. Your dad trusts me completely. Once I show him the paperwork, he'll think it's all for your own good. Each word fueled Jordan's anger, but he remained silent, determined to gather every shred of evidence before her plans came to fruition. Without solid, indisputable proof, he knew his father would never believe him. That night, when Chelsea was on a video call in her office certain that Jordan was asleep, Jordan crept down the hallway, heart pounding, and activated his recording app. He captured every word as Chelsea discussed the boarding school plan, the asset transfer, and her scheme to isolate Jordan from his father. I've already spoken to the boarding school, she declared. They'll take him as soon as the wedding is done. Her associate chuckled, and Chelsea added smugly, prenups are solid. Once the accounts merge, I'll drain what I need offshore and file for divorce within 6 months. Your dad is too proud to fight it, and by then, you'll be out of sight, out of mind. Jordan's hand shook as he backed up the recording to his Google Drive, Ethan's work laptop, and a flash drive. He even emailed the files to himself with an urgent subject line. But 3 days later, while at school, Chelsea discovered his secret habit. That evening, when he returned home, he found the tablet in her possession locked and accompanied by her scornful smile. "Give that back," she demanded. "Did you really think you could outsmart me? Boys like you always think they're clever, but you don't understand the world I do." She pocketed the tablet and patted his cheek condescendingly, whispering, "Stay in your lane, Jordan. If you push me, I'll make sure you regret it." Desperate not to lose the evidence, Jordan scoured every device: his laptop, a hidden flash drive, and his email. But his heart sank when he discovered that every piece of evidence had been erased by Chelsea. His backup was gone. Sitting on the edge of his bed, shaking with fury and fear, he realized she had stripped him of his voice, the one chance he had to save his family. Yet, amid the despair, he discovered one crucial backup on Ethan's work laptop. It was his last hope. If he could access those files and show them to his dad, everything would unravel for Chelsea. That morning, with one mission in mind, Jordan dashed to Ethan's office. "Can I borrow your laptop? I need it for a school project," his dad said, oblivious to the storm beneath. Inside the neatly arranged office meticulously kept by Chelsea, the laptop sat locked. But Jordan knew the password, a combination of Ethan's birth date and his late wife's initials. Fingers trembling, he typed it in. The desktop flickered to life, and he navigated to the folder labeled Jordan's files. There, to his immense relief, were all his backups, audio recordings, screenshots, even a short video of Chelsea shredding documents with Ethan's signature. Quickly, he copied everything onto a new flash drive, tucking it safely into his pocket. Just then, Chelsea appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "Find what you were looking for?" she asked coolly. Jordan's heart pounded. I was just getting my project," he stammered. Chelsea stepped closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "You're really starting to become a problem. Problems get solved one way or another." Jordan stood his ground, voice steady despite the trembling. "I'm not scared of you, Chelsea." Her smile was cold as she turned and walked away, leaving him shaken but more determined than ever. At school that day, whispers trailed Jordan wherever he went. Rumors painted him as a problematic kid, a label Chelsea had repeatedly enforced. Though he tried to ignore the taunts, every sneer only fueled his resolve. That evening, as he sat alone in his room, Jordan reviewed the evidence on his flash drive. Every recording, every conversation was undeniable proof of Chelsea's cruelty. If only he could show his dad the truth, everything might change. But time was short, and confronting Chelsea directly was too dangerous. Instead, he resolved to find someone who would believe him a trusted ally. He thought of his uncle Marcus Brooks, his mom's brother, and a civil rights lawyer renowned for tackling tough cases, especially those involving racial injustice. Although Ethan and Marcus had drifted apart after Angela's passing, Marcus had always kept in touch with Jordan, silently watching from the sidelines. With trembling determination, Jordan waited until Chelsea left for one of her afternoon appointments and then, clutching his phone, called Uncle Marcus. "Uncle Marcus, I need your help. It's about Dad's fiancée. She is planning something terrible." Marcus's voice was firm. "Are you safe, Jordan? Tell me what is going on." In hushed tones, Jordan recounted Chelsea's plans, controlling their finances, planning to send him away to an exclusive boarding school, and her endless stream of threats. After a pause, Marcus said, "I believe you. Get somewhere safe, and we'll figure this out together." The next day, after school, Jordan met Uncle Marcus at a nearby coffee shop. Marcus was already there, leaning against a sleek black sedan with eyes scanning the street like a bodyguard. He pulled Jordan into a quick hug. "You okay, kid?" Jordan nodded and pulled out the flash drive. "Everything on here recordings, screenshots, proof of everything Chelsea has been doing." Marcus inserted the flash drive into his laptop and, after reviewing the files, said gravely, "This isn't just a family dispute. This is fraud, child endangerment, maybe even identity theft. If Chelsea is moving money offshore, she is committing federal crimes. We need to build a case that the police can act on." Jordan's heart pounded. "But the wedding is in 2 weeks. If we wait too long, she'll disappear for good." Marcus replied, "We act tonight. I'll contact my investigator, but be careful. Chelsea is dangerous. If she discovers you have allies, she won't hesitate to silence you." With that, Jordan left with a glimmer of hope amidst his fear. That evening at home, the atmosphere grew darker. Chelsea, usually cool and composed, now ruled with an iron grip. Ethan's trust in her was unwavering, and every time Jordan tried to voice his concerns, Chelsea's carefully crafted narratives painted him as a troubled child. During dinner, Chelsea turned her attention to Jordan, asking in a perfectly polite tone, "How was school today? No misunderstandings with your teachers, I hope?" Jordan forced a shrug. "It was fine." Ethan chuckled. "See? Everything is smoothing out. Chelsea knows how to handle things." But behind Chelsea's saccharine smile, Jordan saw a flash of triumph, a cold satisfaction. Later that night, Jordan crept downstairs to check Ethan's work laptop for his backups. His heart sank when he found the folder labeled Jordan's files empty. Panic surged as he discovered that Chelsea had erased every trace of his evidence. Panicked, Jordan raced back to his room and locked the door. Clutching his backpack tightly, he realized that Chelsea's deletion of his files was a deliberate act, a sign that she knew he was still fighting. Without his evidence, he'd lose everything: his home, his dad, even his freedom. But then, he remembered one crucial backup on Ethan's work laptop. It was his last hope. That morning, with renewed determination, he dashed to Ethan's office. Ethan nonchalantly told him, "Sure, take the laptop for your project." Inside the meticulously arranged office, Jordan entered the known password, a mix of Ethan's birth date and Angela's initials. The desktop flickered on, and he navigated to the backup folder. Relief washed over him as he saw the files: audio recordings, screenshots, and even a short video of Chelsea shredding documents with Ethan's signature. Quickly, he copied everything to a new flash drive and tucked it away securely. Just then, Chelsea appeared in the doorway. "Find what you were looking for?" she asked coolly. Jordan's heart pounded. I was just getting my project," he stammered. Chelsea stepped closer, voice dropping to a near whisper. "You're really starting to become a problem. Problems get solved one way or another." Steadying his voice, Jordan replied, "I'm not scared of you, Chelsea." Her smile was cold as she turned and walked away, her threat lingering like a dark promise. At school that day, Jordan's world felt like a battleground of whispers and stares. The other kids dubbed him a troubled kid thanks to Chelsea's constant put-downs. Though he tried to ignore them, every sneer fueled his resolve. That evening, as he sat alone with a flash drive in hand, Jordan reviewed every recording. The evidence of Chelsea's cruelty was undeniable. He longed to show his dad the truth, yet feared that without undeniable proof, his pleas would be dismissed. Determined, he vowed to collect every detail. He activated his tablet's voice recorder whenever Chelsea was near, capturing every subtle insult, every cold threat. Even at the risk of being caught, he knew that one day, the truth would have to come out. One Friday afternoon, after school, Jordan's heart sank further. As he returned home, he heard Chelsea talking in the kitchen on the phone. "Yes, the accounts will be accessible once we're married," her voice said, low and businesslike. "Ethan's already signed partial co-ownership papers. I didn't even have him read them. I've arranged for a strict boarding school for troubled kids like him." Jordan's blood turned to ice as he activated his recording app. Seated quietly in the back seat, he captured every word. Chelsea's casual tone revealed a horrifying plan. Not only was she set to seize Ethan's assets, but she also planned to rid the family of Jordan by sending him away. Each word deepened his resolve to expose her, even though he knew his father might never believe him without irrefutable evidence. That night, when Chelsea was on a video call in her office, convinced that Jordan was asleep, he crept silently down the hallway and activated his recording app. He captured every detail as she discussed the boarding school plan and the transfer of assets. "I've spoken to the boarding school. They'll take him as soon as the wedding is done," she declared with a chilling calm. Her associate chuckled on the other end, and Chelsea added, "Once the accounts merge, I'll transfer funds offshore and file for divorce within 6 months. Your dad is too proud to fight it, and by then, you'll be out of sight, out of mind." Jordan's hands trembled as he backed up the recording to multiple devices. Yet, despite his careful precautions, Chelsea eventually discovered his habit. One evening, after picking him up from school, she confronted him with a locked tablet in hand. "Give that back," she demanded with a mocking laugh. "Did you really think you could outsmart me? Boys like you always think they're clever, but you don't understand the world I do." Her parting words, whispered condescendingly, "Stay in your lane, Jordan. If you push me, I'll make sure you regret it," burned deep within him. Desperate, Jordan scoured every device: his laptop, flash drive, even his email, only to find that every last piece of evidence had been erased by Chelsea. His backup was gone. Sitting on the edge of his bed, shaking with fury and fear, he realized she had stripped him of his voice and his chance to save his family. Yet, amid the despair, one critical backup remained on Ethan's work laptop. It was his last hope. That morning, with renewed determination, Jordan dashed to Ethan's office. Ethan, casually unaware, said, "Take the laptop for your project." Inside the meticulously organized office, Jordan entered the known password, a blend of Ethan's birth date and Angela's initials. The desktop lit up, and in the folder labeled Jordan's files, he found everything intact: audio recordings, screenshots, and even a short video of Chelsea shredding documents with Ethan's signature. Quickly, he copied all files onto a new flash drive and tucked it into his pocket. Just then, Chelsea appeared in the doorway. "Find what you were looking for?" she asked coolly. Jordan's heart pounded as he stammered, "I was just getting my project." Chelsea stepped closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper, "You're really starting to become a problem." "Problems get solved one way or another." Steadying himself, he replied, "I'm not scared of you, Chelsea." Her cold smile remained as she turned and walked away, her threat lingering like a dark promise. At school that day, whispers trailed Jordan wherever he went. Labeled as a troubled kid by his peers, a narrative Chelsea had carefully engineered, he felt isolated. Every mocking word deepened his resolve to expose the truth. Later that night, alone in his room with his flash drive clutched tight, he reviewed every recording. Each file was undeniable proof of Chelsea's cruelty and manipulation. He longed to show Ethan, but knew that without incontrovertible evidence, his pleas would be dismissed. He resolved then, he would expose her schemes no matter what, even if he had to risk everything. That evening, after school, Jordan met Uncle Marcus at a local coffee shop. Marcus, leaning against a sleek black sedan with vigilant eyes, pulled Jordan into a quick embrace. "You okay, kid?" he asked. Jordan nodded and produced the flash drive. "Everything else on here, recordings, screenshots. Proof of everything Chelsea has been doing." Marcus inserted the drive into his laptop and studied the evidence. "You've been smart, Jordan, but this isn't just a family dispute, it's fraud, child endangerment, and maybe identity theft. If Chelsea is moving money offshore, she is committing federal crimes. We need to build a case solid enough for the police to act." Jordan's heart pounded. "But the wedding is in 2 weeks. If we wait, she might disappear." Marcus replied, "We act tonight. I'll contact my investigator, but be careful, Chelsea is dangerous. If she finds out you have allies, she won't hesitate to silence you." With that, Jordan left with a fragile spark of hope. That evening at home, the tension escalated. Chelsea, unusually calm, hummed softly while chopping vegetables for dinner. Ethan returned tired but smiling, greeted with a kiss on the cheek and an affectionate, "How was work, babe?" Jordan watched silently, feeling that something was off, too calm, too controlled. During dinner, Chelsea turned her attention to him in a perfectly polite tone. "How was school today? No misunderstandings with your teachers?" Jordan forced a shrug. "It was fine." Ethan chuckled. "See? Everything is smoothing out. Chelsea knows what she is doing." Yet behind her saccharine smile, Jordan saw a glimmer of triumph, a cold, calculating satisfaction. Later that night, when Jordan crept downstairs to check Ethan's work laptop for his backups, he found the folder Jordan's files completely empty. His heart sank as he realized Chelsea had erased every trace of his evidence. Panicked, Jordan raced back to his room and locked the door. Clutching his backpack, he realized that without the evidence he'd lose everything: his home, his dad, even his freedom. But he remembered one crucial backup on Ethan's work laptop, his last hope. That morning, with resolve burning inside him, he dashed to Ethan's office. Ethan, oblivious, told him, "Sure, take the laptop for your project." Inside the meticulously organized office, Jordan entered the password, a blend of Ethan's birth date and Angela's initials. The desktop came to life, and in the folder Jordan's files, he found the backups intact, recordings, screenshots, and a video of Chelsea shredding documents with Ethan's signature. Quickly, he copied everything onto a new flash drive and tucked it safely away. Just then, Chelsea appeared. "Find what you were looking for?" she asked coolly. Jordan's heart pounded as he stuttered, "I was just getting my project." Chelsea stepped closer, her voice a near whisper. "You're really becoming a problem. Problems get solved one way or another." Steadying his voice, he said, "I'm not scared of you, Chelsea." Her cold smile remained as she turned and walked away, her threat echoing in his ears. At school that day, Jordan's world felt like a battleground. His peers whispered, labeling him a problem child thanks to Chelsea's constant put-downs. Though he tried to ignore them, every whisper intensified his resolve. That night, alone with his flash drive, Jordan reviewed the evidence he had painstakingly gathered. Every recording was proof of Chelsea's cruelty and manipulation. He longed to show his father the truth, but without irrefutable proof, his pleas might fall on deaf ears. Determined, he vowed to expose her schemes no matter what it took. In the days that followed, Chelsea's control tightened further. Every minor infraction was met with a caustic remark. One evening, as she watched Jordan struggle with an advanced math assignment, Chelsea remarked, "You should be grateful for this education. Boys from your background don't usually get second chances." Jordan's head snapped up. "My background? What is that supposed to mean?" Chelsea smiled serenely. "Oh, don't be so sensitive, Jordan. I'm just saying life is tougher for kids like you. That's why I'm here, to make sure you don't end up like those kids who never make it." Each word stung, and Jordan felt the weight of her words erode his self-worth. Then came the worst day. After school one Friday, as Jordan returned home, he heard Chelsea talking in the kitchen on the phone. "Yes, the accounts will be accessible once we're married," she said in a low, businesslike tone. "Ethan's already signed partial co-ownership papers. I didn't even have him read them. I've arranged for a boarding school for troubled kids like him." Jordan's blood turned to ice. He stumbled backward, knocking into the hall table. The noise made Chelsea pause. "Hold on," she said into the phone, her heels clicking as she stepped into the hallway. For a brief moment, her eyes met Jordan's. He froze in panic. "Listen carefully, Jordan," she continued in a near whisper. "You're nothing but an obstacle. Your dad loves me, he trusts me. You're just the last piece of baggage I need to get rid of. And when I do, no one will believe you, not your dad, not the police, not the courts. You'll be just another angry little black boy who couldn't behave." Her final words hit him like a sledgehammer. "Stay out of my way, or I'll make sure you regret it." That night, lying in bed with the covers pulled up, Jordan realized the full horror of Chelsea's plan. Her cold words echoed relentlessly. "You're nothing but an obstacle." His heart pounded so hard he thought she might hear it. With trembling determination, he vowed he wouldn't let her succeed. If the system wouldn't protect him, he would protect himself. He began recording every interaction, every subtle insult, and every overt threat, compiling undeniable evidence of her manipulation. But as the wedding drew near, Chelsea's tactics became even more overt. Every time Jordan thought his evidence was safe, she found a way to erase it. Yet his resolve only hardened with each loss. In the following days, Chelsea's hold over the household grew even tighter. Ethan's trust in her was unyielding, and every attempt by Jordan to bring up his concerns was dismissed as childish rebellion. Then, one afternoon while Ethan was at work, Jordan noticed that Chelsea was picking him up from school despite his usual routine of walking. During the drive, Chelsea received a call on speakerphone and, glancing at Jordan through the rearview mirror, said coolly. Ethan is signing the final documents this weekend. Once we're married, all the assets will be mine. I'll even send you off to boarding school so you're out of the picture. Jordan's stomach churned as he activated his recorder. Every word confirmed his worst fears. Chelsea wasn't just controlling their lives, she was planning to take everything away. Though his heart pounded with terror, he continued to record, determined that one day he would expose her. Days passed in a haze of tension. Uncle Marcus urged Jordan to be cautious, warning that if Chelsea discovered he had allies, she would stop at nothing to silence him permanently. And indeed, Chelsea began to extend her control beyond the walls of their home. At school, a crumpled note fell out of Jordan's locker. "Know your place, boy." In class, Mr. Carter subtly accused him of taking shortcuts, and even sympathetic teachers couldn't erase the label of troubled kid that Chelsea had imposed on him. That night, as he sat alone with his flash drive, the only evidence of his fight, he vowed to present it to his father and Uncle Marcus before it was too late. One Friday evening, the family's tension reached a breaking point. Ethan had promised Jordan they'd go to basketball practice, a cherished ritual since Jordan was 6, but when Jordan ran downstairs, Chelsea was waiting with arms crossed. "Where do you think you're going?" she snapped. When Ethan explained that a work call had come up, Chelsea interjected smoothly, "I need help with the groceries. Besides, you spend too much time at that place, it won't get you anywhere." Then, leaning in with a saccharine smile that belied the coldness in her eyes, she whispered, "Things are different now, Jordan. This is a real family, and real families don't revolve around spoiled little boys." The words hit him like a slap. He'd never seen himself as spoiled, but Chelsea's refrained boys, like you, had become a cruel echo in his life. After dinner, as Ethan went upstairs, Chelsea's control tightened further, and Jordan realized that if he didn't gather irrefutable evidence soon, he'd lose everything. That night, as Jordan lay awake, he replayed the recordings on his flash drive. Every word, every threat was undeniable proof of Chelsea's manipulation. Determined to expose her, he resolved to confront his father again, but he knew he'd need an ally. He thought of Uncle Marcus, the civil rights lawyer, and his mom's brother, who had always been a silent guardian. Though Ethan and Marcus had grown distant after Angela's death, Marcus had always watched over Jordan from afar. With a pounding heart, Jordan called Uncle Marcus and whispered urgently, "I need your help. It's about Dad's fiancée. She is planning something terrible." Marcus's voice was firm. "Are you safe, Jordan? Tell me what is happening." Jordan recounted everything, the recordings, the erased files, the threats. Marcus's tone hardened. "I believe you. Get somewhere safe, and we'll work together to stop her." The next day, after school, Jordan met Uncle Marcus at a local coffee shop. Marcus, leaning against a sleek black sedan with vigilant eyes, pulled Jordan into a quick hug. "You okay, kid?" he asked. Jordan nodded and produced the flash drive. "Everything else on here, recordings, screenshots. Proof of everything Chelsea has been doing." Marcus inserted the drive into his laptop and studied the evidence. "This isn't just a family dispute," he said gravely. "It's fraud, conspiracy, and child endangerment. We need to build a case for the police." Jordan's heart pounded. "But the wedding's in 2 weeks." Marcus replied, "Then we act tonight. I'll contact my investigator. But be careful, Chelsea is dangerous." With that, Jordan left with a fragile spark of hope. That evening, as the tension in the Brooks household grew, Chelsea's control seemed absolute. Yet Jordan's determination only deepened. In secret, he began recording every interaction with Chelsea, the subtle insults, the cold threats, the dismissive comments. Late one night, while Ethan worked and Chelsea sipped wine in the kitchen, Jordan activated his tablet's recorder. He captured every word as she remarked, "Boys like you always end up in jail," on the streets, or forgotten. Your dad's money won't save you once you're out of the picture. Every recording, every file became his weapon, a growing archive that could one day expose her for the manipulative fraud she truly was. The following morning, the atmosphere at home was tense. At breakfast, Chelsea remarked with sweet insincerity, "Ethan, I've been thinking Jordan deserves the best education. I've looked into Crestview Academy, a boarding school that is strict, prestigious, and perfect for troubled boys like him." Ethan frowned. "Crestview? That's the elite school out of state, isn't it?" Chelsea nodded, smiling serenely. "Exactly. It'll challenge him academically and socially. Public schools just don't offer the structure he needs." Jordan's heart sank as he realized this was yet another move to isolate him. A message from Uncle Marcus later that morning urged him to keep gathering evidence, warning that Chelsea would do anything to silence him. Jordan's mind raced with dread and determination as he prepared for the next step. Later that day, with Ethan at work, Jordan sat in his room, flash drive in hand, reviewing the recordings one final time. The evidence was irrefutable: Chelsea's manipulative words, her cold threats, her plan to seize control of their lives. With a deep breath, he sent an urgent email to himself, backing up all files and printing screenshots and transcripts, carefully labeling everything for when the time came to reveal the truth to his father. That night, when Ethan returned, Jordan approached him, trembling yet resolute. "Dad, please, you have to listen," he pleaded, showing him the flash drive and documents. Ethan's face paled as he skimmed through the evidence. "Jordan," he began, his voice full of conflict, "I didn't realize." Before Ethan could continue, Chelsea interjected coolly, "That's enough, Jordan. You're just making trouble." Tears welled in Jordan's eyes as he realized his father was still under Chelsea's spell. But he also knew he couldn't give up, not now. In the days that followed, tensions escalated. Uncle Marcus visited, examining the evidence with grim determination. "This isn't just a family dispute," he declared. "It's fraud, forgery, and child endangerment. Chelsea's plans go far beyond what you see." Ethan's eyes filled with conflict. "But she has been so caring." Marcus shook his head. "She's manipulating you, Ethan. Look at these recordings. Look at what she is planning to do to Jordan. We need to act now." Ethan's eyes met Jordan's, and for the first time, he said quietly, "I'm sorry, son. I should have listened." Jordan felt a mixture of relief and sorrow. At that moment, Chelsea, alone in the living room, made a call in a low, dangerous tone. "It's done. Once the wedding is over and those papers are signed, everything will be mine. And if anyone, especially that kid, gets in my way, they'll regret it." Her venomous words confirmed that her fight was far from over. In the following hours, Ethan and Marcus worked feverishly to compile the evidence into a dossier. They contacted Detective Harris, a steely-eyed officer known for his integrity, to review every recording, screenshot, and document. "This is solid stuff," Harris said, nodding slowly. "We have fraud, forgery, child endangerment all in here. We need an arrest warrant now." Marcus looked at Ethan, determination in his eyes. "Your family is at risk. We can't let her get away with this." Ethan, now fully aware of the manipulation he'd been under, vowed, "I won't let her take everything from us." Though Jordan's heart still pounded with fear, he finally saw hope glimmering. If the evidence was presented, Chelsea's carefully constructed web would unravel. But Chelsea wasn't one to be easily defeated. With the wedding approaching, she moved quickly behind the scenes to destroy any trace of evidence. One afternoon, while Ethan was at work, she phoned him, saying in a smooth yet venomous tone, "I'm filing for emergency custody of Jordan. If you don't comply, I'll escalate with Child Protective Services." Ethan's anger rose. "What are you talking about?" he demanded. Chelsea's tone was icy. You know how these cases go, Ethan. I'm doing what is best for Jordan. Ethan's eyes burned with betrayal. Jordan is my son. I won't let you take him away. The confrontation was heated, and the evidence began to tip the scales. The time had come to expose Chelsea once and for all. The next morning, the house once filled with wedding dreams felt like a battlefield. Ethan logged into his business account only to discover that Chelsea had moved some of the funds. Not everything, but enough, he muttered, trying to freeze the remaining assets. Jordan's stomach twisted with dread. Chelsea had acted preemptively, and Ethan called the bank immediately. But her lawyers soon claimed the recordings were manipulated, painting Jordan as a troubled, unstable child. Uncle Marcus's voice was grim. We need more solid proof. The recordings and emails were enough to get her arrested, but not enough to convict her unless we shut this down completely. That evening, while Jordan sifted through Chelsea's leftover documents, mundane wedding plans, receipts, fake charity contributions, he found an envelope tucked among Crestview Academy brochures. The acceptance letter, already signed with a forged signature, confirmed her plan to send him away. Ethan's face darkened as he scanned the document. I never signed this, he murmured. Marcus's eyes narrowed. If she gets you there, she'll have full control of everything. Fists clenched in anger, Ethan declared, we need to find out what else she is planning. That night, while Ethan and Marcus worked to secure their business and property, Jordan sneaked into Chelsea's former guest room, now her home office. The room, once warm and welcoming, had been cleared out for the wedding. Quietly, he inspected the area and noticed faint scratches on the floor beneath the desk. Moving the chair aside, he discovered a small floor vent slightly ajar. With his heart pounding, he pried off the vent cover and found a black leather-bound notebook. Inside, Chelsea's precise handwriting detailed her plans, manipulating Ethan into signing financial documents, falsifying Jordan's behavior reports at Crestview to justify his transfer, and even plans to portray Jordan as a danger so that if Ethan resisted, Chelsea could strip him of his parental rights. It was a playbook of premeditated schemes. Trembling, Jordan snapped photos of every page with his phone. He now had more than enough evidence, a detailed blueprint of Chelsea's fraud and abuse. Breathless, he ran downstairs and thrust the notebook toward Marcus and Ethan. Look at this, he cried. This is her playbook. Marcus's face hardened. This isn't just fraud, it's conspiracy, child endangerment, and forgery. We take this to the police and she is done. Ethan's jaw tightened. I'll call Detective Harris. This will seal the case. Jordan's heart pounded with hope and fear. He knew they had to act swiftly. That night, as Ethan, Marcus, and Jordan reviewed the notebook, a glimmer of triumph stirred within them. But soon a call from Detective Harris reminded them that Chelsea's legal machine was already in motion. Detective Harris is on the line, Marcus said as Ethan answered. We have enough evidence to press charges: fraud, forgery, conspiracy, and child endangerment. But be careful. If Chelsea learns we have this evidence, she'll do anything to silence you. Ethan's eyes met Jordan's, and for the first time in months, Jordan saw genuine regret. I'm so sorry, son. I should have listened from the start. Though exhausted and heartbroken, Jordan felt a spark of relief. They had the evidence, and now it was time to bring Chelsea's web of deceit crashing down. In the following hours, tensions reached a fever pitch. Chelsea, sensing the news tightening, grew erratic. She began making threatening calls, her voice smooth yet laced with menace. You think you won, Ethan? A few scribbles in a notebook aren't enough to take me down. I'm not going to let a problem child ruin everything. She sneered over the phone. Ethan's hands trembled as he clutched his phone. What are you saying, Chelsea? You're calling from jail, she spat. How did I make bail, darling? Don't forget how well connected I am. After a long silence, she hung up. Marcus grabbed his phone with grim determination. We need to get out of here now. She won't sick quietly if she gets bail. I'll put a tail on her, but we must be careful. Ethan, Marcus, and Jordan piled into the car and sped away from the house, knowing that the battle was far from over. As they drove, the gravity of their situation weighed on them. The house that once symbolized family dreams now resembled a battlefield, scarred tires, spray-painted threats on Marcus's car, and broken trust everywhere. Jordan's mind raced with the recordings he had gathered, but his thoughts were interrupted by his phone buzzing with an unknown call. Against his better judgment, he answered. A smooth, venomous voice said, "Did you really think you'd win, Jordan? You're going to jail." Jordan's heart pounded. He realized Chelsea was still out there, still manipulating, still controlling. Ethan's voice broke the tense silence. No more running. We're taking this to the police. I'm done letting her control our lives. Marcus added, we'll get a restraining order and freeze her accounts for good. But remember, she is dangerous. They knew Chelsea wasn't just after money, she was after total control. Every second she remained free brought them closer to disaster. The next morning, under heavy police escort, the family returned to their home. The front yard, once the stage for wedding dreams, now resembled a battleground. Scarred tires, spray-painted messages, and shattered trust. Ethan warned, "Stay close. Don't leave my sight." Jordan nodded, his eyes filled with both fear and defiance, knowing Chelsea was still out there. Inside, Marcus and Ethan began calling the district attorney's office, determined to press charges and freeze any remaining assets. Detective Harris promised, "We won't let her get away with this. We'll expose every lie and every ounce of fraud she has committed." Jordan clutched his flash drive and notebook tightly, a small beacon of hope amid the chaos. Later that day, while Marcus and Ethan met with Detective Harris at the DA's office, a twist unfolded. Marcus's phone buzzed. Chelsea's lawyer, Carver, was outside with an envelope containing official paperwork. Ethan opened it with trepidation. It was Chelsea's filing for emergency custody of Jordan, claiming Ethan was unfit to parent, citing emotional instability, neglect, and educational negligence. Anger surged in Ethan. "She is not taking my son away," he vowed. Carver, with a slick smile, said, "We'll see about that. Have a nice day," and walked away. Marcus grabbed his keys. "We're going to the police station now, no more waiting." Under police escort, they drove to the station, the threat of Chelsea's next move heavy in the air. At the police station, Detective Harris examined the evidence and told Jordan, "There is more than enough here for multiple felony charges: fraud, child endangerment, conspiracy." Ethan felt a brief relief that the system might finally work in their favor, though Chelsea's lawyers were already claiming the recordings were manipulated and that "you're just a troubled kid." Ethan declared, "She is not getting out this time." Harris warned, "Her lawyers are pushing for bail. If she posts bail, she could disappear. We must act fast." Jordan's heart sank as he recalled how often he'd been dismissed. But now, armed with undeniable proof, he felt hope. Uncle Marcus then revealed, "We have one final piece of evidence that might bring her down for good." Jordan's eyes widened. Marcus produced a document, a Crestview Academy acceptance letter, signed with a forged signature. Ethan's face darkened. "This is it," he murmured. "If we prove my signature was forged, nothing can stop us." As the police processed the evidence, Chelsea's behavior grew increasingly volatile. One afternoon, while Ethan was at work and Marcus was on a call with Detective Harris, Chelsea, distracted, left her personal folder on the dining table. Jordan, ever vigilant, noticed a folder filled with letters, receipts, and memos detailing her plans to manipulate Ethan's finances and strip him of parental rights. Without hesitation, Jordan photographed every page. But as he was about to secure the images, Chelsea stormed in, her face twisting with rage. "What do you think you're doing?" she demanded. Jordan's heart pounded as he replied, "I'm saving the truth so you can't erase it." For a brief moment, time stood still. Then Chelsea said coldly, "You're just a problem, Jordan. You'll never understand." Her words, laced with cruelty, ignited a fire within him. He knew this was the final push. The evidence would soon be enough to bring her down. In the final hours before the wedding, the tension reached its climax. Chelsea's control was omnipresent, yet Jordan's determination had grown stronger with every piece of evidence he secured. That night, as the family gathered in the living room, Chelsea made one last attempt at charm. "I just want what is best for all of us," she said in a saccharine tone. But Ethan, now seeing the truth through Marcus's evidence and Jordan's unwavering resolve, felt his facade crumble. His eyes met Jordan's silent apology passing between them. "I should have listened, son," Ethan whispered. In that moment, as the wedding loomed and Chelsea's schemes were laid bare, Jordan realized that their fight wasn't just against one manipulative woman, it was a battle against a system that often favored power over truth. With the final pieces of evidence presented to Detective Harris, Chelsea's carefully constructed web began to unravel, and the weight of truth came crashing down. In the aftermath, as the police arrested Chelsea and led her away in handcuffs, Ethan, Marcus, and Jordan stood together outside the courthouse in the cold wind. "I'm sorry, Jordan. I let her do this to us," Ethan said softly. Jordan, eyes brimming with sorrow and relief, replied, "It's over, Dad. At least for now." Marcus added, "You did the right thing, Jordan. You saved us all." Though the scars of betrayal would remain, they had reclaimed their lives. The ensuing trial became a local scandal, a story of fraud, forgery, and the courageous fight of a young boy who refused to be silenced. In court, Chelsea's charm did nothing to save her. The judge, a no-nonsense woman, handed down a 5-year sentence without parole. Outside the courthouse, as Ethan, Marcus, and Jordan stood together in the biting wind, Ethan murmured, "It's really over." Marcus added, "For now. But remember, the fight isn't truly finished." Jordan exhaled deeply, feeling the heavy weight on his chest begin to lift. In the weeks that followed, life slowly began to rebuild. The house, once dominated by Chelsea's cold control, was gradually restored to warmth and hope. Ethan hired a new lawyer, one Marcus trusted, to ensure Chelsea could never touch their assets again, and he even reached out to Child Protective Services to clear Jordan's name of the false reports she'd planted. Still, the shadow of Chelsea's manipulation lingered, a reminder of how easily power can be abused. Uncle Marcus called with news that the judge had denied Chelsea's bail, declaring her a flight risk. "She is staying locked up until trial," Marcus said triumphantly. Jordan's knees buckled with relief. "So it's really over," he whispered. "Almost," Marcus replied. "But the fight isn't just in court, it's about repairing the damage she left behind." For Ethan, the ordeal had shattered his trust, yet taught him a hard lesson in vigilance. Jordan, once labeled a troubled kid, now stood as a testament to the power of truth and the importance of fighting for one's family. Their lives would never return to the innocence of the past, but they had forged something stronger, a bond built on survival, resilience, and the pursuit of justice. One quiet Saturday morning, as the sun painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Jordan and Ethan sat on the back porch in reflective silence. "Dad," Jordan finally asked softly, "do you think people like Chelsea ever really change?" Ethan paused, sipping his coffee. "Some do, most don't. But change isn't our job, Jordan. Our job is to protect ourselves, stand up for what is right, and keep fighting for the truth." Jordan nodded, watching the morning light push away the shadows of the past. Chelsea was gone, Yet the scars she left would take time to heal. In that moment, united in resolve, they knew the truth had finally prevailed, a hard-fought victory against manipulation and betrayal. In the aftermath, Chelsea's trial became a local scandal, with reporters swarming the courthouse. Headlines shifted from businessman's fiancée caught in scandal to fraud scheme exposed by teen hero. Though Jordan hated the unwanted attention, he felt a quiet satisfaction knowing the world had seen Chelsea for who she truly was. The conviction came swiftly. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with a keen eye for deception, handed down a 5-year sentence without parole. Jordan took a plea deal in exchange for his testimony, but his determined gaze never wavered. Outside the courthouse, as Ethan, Marcus, and Jordan stood together in the cold wind, Ethan murmured, "It's really over." Marcus added, "For now, but never forget, the fight is never truly finished." Jordan exhaled deeply, feeling the weight on his chest begin to lift. In the weeks that followed, the house slowly transformed back into a home. The haunting echoes of Chelsea's control faded into the background, replaced by the cautious warmth of family unity. Ethan hired a new lawyer, one Marcus trusted implicitly, and filed for a restraining order against Chelsea. He even reached out to Child Protective Services to clear Jordan's name of the false reports she'd planted. Yet, the shadow of Chelsea's manipulation lingered, a constant reminder of the danger of unchecked power. Uncle Marcus called with news. The judge had denied Chelsea's bail, declaring her a flight risk. "She is staying locked up until trial," he said triumphantly. Jordan's knees buckled with relief as he whispered, "So it's really over." "Almost," Marcus replied. "But remember, the fight is about repairing the damage she left behind." Their lives would never be the same, but they had found strength in their unity, and the truth that had finally prevailed. One quiet Saturday morning, as golden and crimson hues filled the sky, Ethan and Jordan sat together on the back porch. "Dad, do you think people like Chelsea ever really change?" Jordan asked softly. Ethan was silent for a long moment before replying, "Some do, most don't. But our job isn't to change them, it's to protect ourselves, stand up for the truth, and keep fighting." Jordan nodded, watching as the morning light pushed away the shadows of the past. Though Chelsea was gone, the scars of her manipulation would remain. Yet, in that moment, united as a family, they vowed never to let anyone steal their truth again. Their story became more than just a personal battle. It evolved into a powerful reminder of how easily power can be abused, and why marginalized voices must be heard. Chelsea had wielded privilege and manipulation to discredit a young black boy who dared to speak out, bolstered by a system that too often sided with those like her. But Jordan's persistence proved one crucial point. When backed by undeniable evidence and courageous hearts, the truth can shatter even the most carefully constructed lies. He hadn't relied solely on words. He documented, recorded, and sought allies who believed in justice. Uncle Marcus's involvement underscored the importance of community. No one wins these battles alone. Ethan's journey, though marred by betrayal, became a story of redemption when he finally chose truth over blind trust. In the end, the courtroom verdict and Chelsea's arrest marked a turning point for the Brooks family. Though their ordeal had left deep scars, Ethan and Jordan learned that healing takes time. Ethan enrolled Jordan in counseling to process the trauma of being gaslit by someone they once trusted. Jordan immersed himself in school sports and reconnected with old friends, slowly rebuilding the bonds Chelsea had tried to sever. In quiet moments, as they looked toward the horizon, Ethan promised, "We're starting fresh. No more secrets, no more blind trust, just us, stronger this time." Jordan leaned into his dad, determined to move forward. Their story became a beacon of hope and resilience, a testament to the power of truth. Now, as they look back on those dark days, Ethan and Jordan understand that while the scars may never fully fade, they serve as reminders of their strength. Their journey proved that the fight for justice is not a solitary battle. It requires standing up, even when the odds are stacked against you, and refusing to let those in power dictate your destiny. United, they knew that even if the system sometimes failed, their collective determination and commitment to truth would always prevail. Their battle was far from over, but together, they had reclaimed their lives and their dignity. 15 years later, the early morning light filtered through the tall glass windows of the high-rise office building, painting the polished marble floors in a soft golden hue. Jordan Brooks, now a composed and confident man in his mid-20s, sat behind a sleek mahogany desk in his corner office, his eyes briefly closing as he savored the quiet triumph of a long journey. It was hard to believe that the frightened, determined 10-year-old he once was had blossomed into a successful entrepreneur who now helmed a thriving technology startup in downtown Chicago. Every scar, every sleepless night spent gathering evidence against Chelsea had led him to this moment of hard-won success. Jordan's office was a picture of modern elegance, minimalist decor with hints of personal memorabilia, a faded family photo here, a worn-out basketball from his childhood there. Yet, for all its contemporary flair, his eyes often drifted to one object on his shelf, a small framed photo of his father, Ethan Brooks, smiling tenderly as they stood side by side during happier times. It was a silent reminder of the past, and the battles fought for truth and family. On this particular morning, as Jordan reviewed quarterly figures on his ultra-wide monitor, his phone vibrated with a new message. It was from an old contact at a community outreach program he'd supported in the past. The message was short, yet it sent a ripple through his carefully ordered day. "Jordan, I saw someone today at the downtown shelter who reminded me of someone from your past. I think you should see her. Marcus." A shiver ran down his spine. Memories, long-buried memories of Chelsea Morgan, the woman whose lies and calculated manipulation had torn his childhood apart, flooded his mind. But he had worked so hard to overcome that painful chapter. Now, he was a man who had built a successful business, a respected reputation, and even a sense of inner peace that had eluded him for so many years. Jordan leaned back in his leather chair and closed his eyes for a moment. Could it really be her? He wondered. After all these years, could Chelsea still be wandering the streets, a shadow of the woman who once nearly ruined his life? He took a deep breath and opened his eyes, determination hardening his gaze. Whatever lay ahead, he knew he couldn't simply ignore the possibility that their paths might cross again. Later that afternoon, Jordan decided to take a break from the demands of his burgeoning company. Dressed casually in a tailored navy blazer and jeans, he stepped out into the brisk Chicago air and made his way toward the community center Marcus had mentioned, a shelter-turned-resource hub for those in need. The walk felt cathartic. Every step on the busy sidewalk was both a reminder of his long journey from pain to success and a testament to the compassion he now embraced. Inside the modest, repurposed building, the atmosphere was warm despite its humble surroundings. Volunteers bustled about, organizing donations and offering smiles to those who had found themselves adrift in life's turbulent seas. Jordan wandered slowly among the rows of donated books and mismatched chairs, his eyes scanning the room with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. Then, in a quiet corner of the shelter, a place where a small table was arranged with a few donated blankets and a sign reading Community Cafe, he saw her. A woman with disheveled blonde hair, worn-out clothing, and eyes that spoke of untold sorrows sat hunched over a cup of tepid coffee. The woman's face, once so carefully constructed with charm and confidence, now bore the rough edges of hardship and regret. Her skin was pallid, her eyes downcast, and every line on her face seemed to tell a story of loss and despair. For a long moment, Jordan simply stared. His heart pounded not with anger or the old hurt, but with a deep, unexpected empathy. He slowly approached her table, his footsteps soft on the threadbare carpet. Clearing his throat gently, he said, "Excuse me, may I sit here?" The woman looked up, startled at first, then blinked in recognition, as if seeing a ghost from her past. Her lips trembled into a tentative smile. "Jordan?" she asked, voice barely audible. He nodded slowly. "It's me," he replied, his tone gentle and measured. "I never thought, after everything." His voice trailed off as memories of their painful past intermingled with the unexpected sight before him. A long silence followed, heavy with unspoken words. Finally, the woman lowered her gaze, and in a voice filled with remorse, she whispered, "I am sorry, Jordan. I never meant for any of it to happen. I lost everything, and I lost myself along the way." Her voice cracked with emotion as she continued, "I've been living on the streets for so long. I've been trying to survive, and I've had plenty of time to think about my choices." Jordan studied her carefully. The vibrant, cunning woman he once knew was now a broken shell, her eyes shimmering with regret. In that moment, all the bitterness that had once fueled his resolve seemed to melt away. Instead of anger, a profound sadness and compassion took its place. "I know," he said softly. "I know you did what you thought you had to do back then." His words were measured, but his eyes held a sincere, deep warmth. "I want to pretend I'm not hurt by what happened, but I've spent so many years learning that holding on to resentment only destroys you. I built my life on hard work and on forgiving even when it's hard. And I'm not that same boy anymore." The woman's eyes widened with disbelief and hope. You forgive me?" she asked, voice quavering as tears began to form. "After all I did?" Jordan gave a slow, steady nod. "I do," he replied, his tone firm yet kind. "I know life has been difficult for you, and I believe everyone deserves a second chance. I'm not saying what you did was okay, but I also know that people can change, and sometimes life gives us a way to make amends. I have a job at my company, and if you're willing, I'd like to offer you a chance to work with us. No conditions, just a chance to help rebuild something good." Her eyes filled with tears as the weight of his words sunk in. "Jordan, I don't know what to say," she stuttered, her voice breaking under the strain of pent-up remorse. "I never imagined that you'd be kind after everything. I'm so sorry for the pain I caused you and your family. I've wasted so many years, and I want to change." For a long moment, the two sat in silence. The only sounds were the soft hum of the shelter's old refrigerator and the distant murmur of volunteers speaking with patrons. Finally, Jordan reached out, placing a gentle hand on hers. "Let us start anew," he said quietly. "Not for me, but for you. We all deserve a chance to find our way back. And maybe, just maybe, you can help me build something better too." Her voice trembled as she responded, thank you, Jordan. I don't deserve this, I know I don't, but I promise I'll work hard. I'll do anything to make up for the past." Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, "I've been so lost, so alone. And now, you're giving me a chance at redemption. I can't believe it." Jordan smiled gently, though the memory of old wounds still shimmered in his eyes. "I believe that we all have the capacity to change, Chelsea," he said, choosing her first name even as it stung a silent acknowledgement of the past that he now wished to leave behind. "Maybe it's time to let go of who we once were and focus on who we can become." For a moment, the air seemed to hold its breath. The woman, once the architect of so much pain, sat trembling, overwhelmed by the unexpected kindness. In that quiet space, amid the clatter of daily life in the shelter, a fragile hope began to blossom. The past could not be undone, but the future was unwritten. I need time," she murmured, voice wavering. "I need to prove to myself that I can be better, that I can help rather than hurt." Jordan nodded slowly, understanding the magnitude of her confession. "Take all the time you need," he replied. "I'm not expecting miracles overnight. But if you're willing to try, then I'm willing to help you get started." Their conversation stretched on for hours, a delicate, winding dialogue filled with tentative confessions, reflective silences, and a growing mutual understanding. They spoke of the painful memories that had haunted them both, of the long nights filled with regret and lost opportunities. The shelter's modest surroundings bore witness to a transformation, the bitter remnants of a past filled with betrayal slowly giving way to a hopeful future built on forgiveness and second chances. As the afternoon light softened into a gentle dusk, Jordan and the woman, no longer just the deceitful figure of his childhood, but a human being burdened by regret, stepped out into the cool evening. In the bustling streets of Chicago, where neon lights flickered against the night sky and the hum of the city never truly ceased, they embarked on a tentative journey together. "Let us get you something warm to eat," Jordan suggested as they strolled side by side. "I know a diner that's open late. We can talk more there if you'd like." Her eyes, still red from tears, shimmered with gratitude. "I'd like that," she replied softly. "Thank you, Jordan, for giving me a chance. I promise I won't waste it." Over steaming plates of diner food and amidst the soft clatter of cutlery and hushed conversations, they continued to talk. Jordan listened as she spoke haltingly of the hardships that had led her to this point, of the choices that had spiraled into a life of regret and loss. She told him about nights spent wandering the streets, about shelters that offered little more than temporary solace, and about a self that had once been full of ambition but had crumbled under the weight of her own deception. In return, Jordan shared his journey, how the pain of his past had shaped him, how he had struggled to build something meaningful, and how forgiveness had become a cornerstone of his philosophy. Their dialogue was rich with detail and raw emotion. At one point, she paused, her hand trembling as she reached across the table. "Jordan, I've spent so many years running from myself. I thought I could hide behind lies, behind the mask I wore. But now, all I have is this truth, and it's terrifying." Jordan's voice was gentle but firm. "The truth can be frightening, but it's also liberating. Once you face it, you have a chance to rebuild, to be something more than what you were." She nodded, tears falling freely now. "I don't know if I can ever make up for what I did. I hurt you, I hurt your family, and I hurt myself. I've been drowning in regret for so long." Jordan squeezed her hand lightly. "Regret is a heavy burden, but it can also be the catalyst for change. I want to pretend that I'm not still scarred by the past, but holding on to hate won't fix anything. I choose to forgive, not because what you did is forgotten, but because I believe in the possibility of redemption." Her eyes searched his, and in that moment, the diner's noise faded into a distant murmur. I never thought I'd hear those words from you," she whispered. "After everything, you still have such mercy in your heart." Jordan offered a small, bittersweet smile. "Mercy is what saved me once. It can save you too, if you let it." By the time they left the diner, dusk had given way to a starlit night. In the cool air outside, with the city's skyline stretching before them, Jordan felt a sense of resolve. He knew that this encounter was not about erasing the past, it was about building a future where both he and the woman, once known as Chelsea, could heal. And as they walked slowly side by side, an unspoken promise hung between them, that even the deepest wounds might mend when confronted with genuine forgiveness and a chance to start over. The next few days passed in a quiet, almost surreal haze for Jordan. Though the encounter at the shelter had unsettled him, it also stirred something within, a willingness to extend mercy where once there had been only hurt. That evening, back in his sleek downtown office, Jordan sat in his glass-walled conference room, surrounded by the muted hum of his successful business. Yet even as quarterly reports and strategy memos cluttered his mind, his thoughts kept drifting back to that chance meeting in the shelter, and to the woman once the architect of his childhood torment, who now looked so lost and broken. At dusk, Jordan stepped outside onto the balcony of his office. The Chicago skyline shimmered against the twilight, a vivid contrast to the life he once endured. In that reflective moment, he resolved to reach out once more. He dialed a number saved from his past one he'd almost forgotten. It was Marcus's number. The phone rang a few times before Marcus's deep, steady voice answered. "Jordan," Marcus said, his tone a blend of warmth and concern. "I've been thinking about that meeting. How are you holding up?" Jordan exhaled slowly. "I'm still processing it, Uncle Marcus. I never expected to see her like that, the woman who once nearly tore our family apart, now reduced to someone who can barely stand on her own." Marcus paused, and his voice softened. "Sometimes life has a way of humbling us. Maybe it's time for both of you to find a way to heal. If you're ready to offer forgiveness, it might start with extending a hand rather than holding a grudge." Jordan ran his hand over the glass railing as the wind rustled through the leaves below. "I want to, but I'm still haunted by the past. I spent so many years gathering evidence, fighting for the truth. It feels like an impossible leap to just let go of all that hurt." Marcus's reply was measured and gentle. "Jordan, forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about reclaiming your power. You built your life on truth and perseverance. Now you have a chance to show that truth can be transformative, even for those who have erred so terribly." That conversation lingered with Jordan as he returned to his office later that night. He opened a new email draft addressed to his company's HR director, drafting a proposal to create a community outreach program, one aimed at providing second chances for those who had fallen on hard times. In his heart, he hoped that by giving someone the opportunity to rebuild, he might finally close that painful chapter. A week later, Jordan's company hosted its annual community day. Employees mingled with local residents at a renovated community center in a vibrant neighborhood on the city's west side. Banners celebrated resilience and opportunity, and booths offered everything from career advice to free meals. Jordan strolled among the volunteers, his presence calm and assured. Yet, as fate would have it, his thoughts were interrupted by a soft voice calling his name. He turned to see a woman standing hesitantly near one of the information kiosks. Her appearance was unmistakable. Once immaculate and commanding, she now wore faded, mismatched clothing. Her blonde hair, once perfectly styled, had lost its luster, and her eyes, though shadowed by hardship, still carried an ember of the formidable woman she had once been. The sight made Jordan's pulse quicken, but instead of old anger, he felt a cautious compassion. "Jordan?" she asked, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "Is it really you?" "Hi, Chelsea," he replied, using the name he'd once forced himself to hate. There was a pause, a silence heavy with history. "I'm glad to see you. How have you been?" Her eyes glistened with tears as she shifted from foot to foot. "Not well, honestly. I lost everything. After the trial, I couldn't find a footing. I ended up on the streets, and I've been trying to get back on my feet ever since." Her voice wavered, and she bowed her head. "I'm so sorry for everything I did." Jordan took a steady breath, studying the woman before him. "I know you're sorry," he said softly. "I've spent so many years hurting because of what you did, but I've learned that holding on to that anger only weighs you down. I'd built my life on forgiveness eventually, and on the power of a fresh start." A few passers-by glanced over, their curiosity evident, but Jordan and Chelsea were enveloped in their own world. Slowly, he extended his hand. "I'm not asking you to erase the past, Chelsea. I'm asking you to come with me, to work with me. I'm starting a program at my company that gives opportunities to those who have been marginalized or have lost their way. I believe in second chances. I want to give you that chance if you're willing." For a long, agonizing moment, Chelsea's eyes searched his face. Why would you do that?" she whispered, almost inaudibly. Jordan smiled gently. "Because, despite everything, I believe in redemption. I believe that people can change. And I'm tired of letting the past dictate my future. I want to help build something better for both of us." Her lips quivered as she struggled to contain her emotions. "I don't deserve your kindness," she murmured, voice thick with remorse. "I caused so much pain. I manipulated and hurt so many, and I thought it was about power. I see now that it was always about control over others and, ultimately, over myself. I've been living in the ruins of my choices for far too long." The sincerity in her tone struck Jordan deeply. He nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. "We all make mistakes, Chelsea. What matters is what we do next. I'm offering you a chance not just to work for me, but to prove to yourself that you can be more than your past. Let us start fresh. I promise I won't hold the past against you. Instead, let us build something new." Tears streamed down Chelsea's face as she whispered, "Thank you, Jordan. I don't know how to repay you." "Just do your best," he replied firmly, offering a slight smile. "We'll work together, and over time, you can earn not only your place here, but also a chance to reclaim your life. I want you to be part of this change." In the days that followed, Chelsea slowly began to reintegrate into a world that had once rejected her. At first, she struggled with the routine and the structure of the program. Her hands trembled as she sorted through paperwork in a small, shared office within Jordan's company. Yet Jordan visited her often, sometimes to check on her progress, other times just to share a cup of coffee and a quiet conversation about the day. Their dialogues were laced with memories of old wounds, but also with a growing mutual understanding. One crisp morning, as the early sun illuminated the glass facade of the company's headquarters, Chelsea found herself working alongside a team of volunteers. Jordan had introduced her as a new team member with a unique perspective, a description that allowed her to shed, if only slightly, the weight of her past identity. During a break, while they gathered in a small conference room, a young intern asked, "Ms. Morgan, what made you decide to join our company?" Chelsea's eyes flickered with a mixture of sorrow and hope. "I've made many mistakes in my life," she began, her voice steady yet soft. "There was a time when I thought I needed power and control to feel safe, but that path only led to more pain. I'm here now because I want to rebuild myself. I want to be useful, to contribute to something bigger than my own regrets. And I'm grateful that someone believed in me enough to give me the chance." Jordan watched her speak, feeling both vindicated and humbled. In that moment, as the intern's curious gaze shifted between them, he realized that forgiveness wasn't simply an act of generosity, it was a powerful statement of trust in the possibility of change. Later that day, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the office slowly emptied, Jordan and Chelsea found themselves alone in the quiet aftermath of the workday. The soft hum of the air conditioning and the distant sounds of the city provided a gentle backdrop to their conversation. "I still have nightmares sometimes," Chelsea confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I dream of the days when I was so consumed by greed and control. I see the faces of those I hurt, and I can't escape the guilt." Jordan sat silently for a moment before replying, "I won't pretend that I haven't been scarred by your actions. The pain is something I carried with me for years. But I also learned that harboring anger only made the wounds fester. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting, it's about freeing yourself from that burden. I'm still healing too. We both are." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears as she reached out, her hand trembling as it brushed his. "Thank you, Jordan. I promise I'll do everything in my power to be worthy of this second chance. I'm ready to work hard and try to mend what I can. I want to change." He squeezed her hand gently. "Then let us begin by taking it one day at a time. I know it won't be easy. Change rarely is. But every step you take toward a better future is a step away from the past. And I'll be here to support you." As the night deepened, They continued their conversation, a careful dance of shared memories, remorseful confessions, and cautious hope. They spoke of the small victories that could build a new foundation, of the importance of honesty and accountability, and of the courage it took to face one's own mistakes. The dialogue was rich with detail. The quiet clink of coffee cups, the rustle of paper as notes were taken, and the soft murmur of voices blending with the city's distant pulse. In that room, beneath the soft glow of a single desk lamp, an unspoken promise was forged, a promise that redemption, however fragile, could be nurtured through compassion, determination, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Though the scars of the past would remain, they could become the stepping stones toward a future defined not by regret, but by the courage to rebuild. Days turned into weeks, and gradually Chelsea began to show small signs of transformation. She took to arriving early, setting up her workspace meticulously, and even engaging in long conversations with other employees about lessons learned and the value of second chances. During one afternoon meeting, a senior colleague remarked, "It's rare to see someone so dedicated to change. I hope your story inspires others too." Chelsea's eyes met Jordan's across the conference table. "I want to believe that change is possible," she said, her voice steady despite the emotion behind it. "I want to prove that I'm not defined by my past. I want to help, truly help, so that no one else has to suffer as I did." Jordan nodded, his gaze warm and understanding. "That is all any of us can ask for," he replied. "We all stumble. What matters is how we rise again." Over time, as the program grew and more lives were touched by the chance for rehabilitation and renewal, Jordan found himself reflecting on how far he had come. The man he had once been, a frightened child hardened by betrayal, had transformed into someone who believed that true strength lay in forgiving and rebuilding. His company not only thrived financially, but also became a beacon for community outreach and empowerment, driven by the belief that even the darkest past could yield a bright future. Late one evening, after a long day of mentoring and strategy sessions, Jordan sat alone on the rooftop of his office building. The city stretched out below him, vibrant and unyielding. He recalled the countless nights spent in turmoil during his youth, of fear, the pain, and the desperate need to be believed. And now, here he was, offering forgiveness to the very person who had once brought so much misery into his life. The cool breeze ruffled his hair as he whispered softly to the empty sky, "I forgive you, Chelsea. Not because I forget, but because I choose to move forward." That night, as rain began to patter softly against his office window, Jordan drafted an email to all employees, announcing the expansion of their community outreach program. The message was heartfelt, emphasizing resilience, hope, and the power of second chances. He closed the email with a quote that had always resonated with him: "The brightest stars emerge from the darkest nights." It wasn't long before the program's success began to ripple through the community. Stories of transformation and redemption emerged, of formerly troubled youth finding stability through mentorship, an ex-convict starting a small business with the support of the outreach program, and even Chelsea herself gradually regaining a sense of purpose as she worked tirelessly to prove her worth. One chilly autumn afternoon, during a community celebration at the shelter, Jordan found himself on stage with Marcus. The event was a lively mix of music, laughter, and heartfelt testimonials from people whose lives had been touched by the program. As Marcus introduced a young volunteer who had once been homeless, Jordan's eyes swept over the crowd, and there, in a quiet corner, he caught sight of Chelsea. She stood apart from the revelry, her eyes moist yet resolute. After the event, Jordan approached her. "Chelsea," he said gently, "I wanted to thank you for everything you've done. It's clear that you're changing, and your work here is making a real difference." Her eyes glistened as she replied, "I never imagined that someone like you would give me a second chance. I'm sorry for all the pain I caused. Every day, I work to prove to myself and to others that I'm more than my mistakes." They spoke at length, sharing quiet moments of understanding and honest reflection. In one conversation, as they walked slowly along a tree-lined path in a nearby park, Chelsea confided, "There were nights I cried myself to sleep, thinking I was beyond redemption. But seeing what you built, it's given me hope that I can change." Jordan smiled softly. "Hope is the first step. I'm not asking you to erase the past, I just want you to use it as a foundation to build something better." Their dialogue was interspersed with comfortable silences as the evening deepened into night. Each word, each glance, was an affirmation of the power of forgiveness and the strength of the human spirit to transform even the deepest wounds. As the weeks turned into months, Chelsea became an integral part of the outreach program. Her once distant demeanor gradually softened as she connected with the people she was helping. One day, during a one-on-one session with a young woman who had just lost her job, Chelsea spoke passionately, "I know what it feels like to be lost, to feel that you have no value. But you are not defined by your struggles. Every day is a new chance to rebuild." The young woman's eyes filled with tears of gratitude, and for a moment, Chelsea saw reflected in that face the possibility of redemption for herself. Meanwhile, Jordan's business continued to flourish. His dedication to both his company and his community outreach program became a model of corporate social responsibility, a testament to his belief that success was not measured solely by profit, but by the positive change one could foster in the world. One crisp winter evening, after a particularly moving board meeting where a partner remarked on the transformative impact of the outreach program, Jordan stood before the panoramic windows of his office, watching as snow gently blanketed the city. He recalled the long, painful nights of his youth, when every threat and every harsh word from Chelsea had cut deeply. Yet now, in that moment of stillness, he felt a profound sense of peace. A soft chime from his office door interrupted his reverie. It was a junior executive, eyes alight with excitement, saying, "Jordan, you have to see this. There's a community forum scheduled for tomorrow, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. People are saying that your program has given them hope again." Smiling, Jordan replied, "That's exactly what we set out to do. Let us keep working, and let us make sure that hope reaches every corner of this city." As he returned to his desk, Jordan's thoughts were filled with gratitude for the chance to transform pain into progress, for the opportunity to extend forgiveness, and for the belief that even the most troubled soul could find a path to redemption. That night, as the city's lights shimmered beneath a starry sky, Jordan sat back in his chair and reflected on the journey that had brought him here, from a broken, angry child to a man who had learned that the truest victory lay not in vengeance, but in forgiveness and renewal. And with that thought, he closed his eyes, feeling at last the quiet assurance that the future, no matter how uncertain, was full of possibility. The winter had given way to a gentle spring. New beginnings were everywhere in Chicago, from the budding trees along the boulevard to the renewed energy within Jordan's company. In the months following the transformative community forum, the outreach program had blossomed beyond what anyone had imagined. Local newspapers ran stories about the Brooks Initiative, a program that not only offered job training and mentorship, but also reached out to the most forgotten corners of the city. Every morning, as the first light crept over the skyline, Jordan would step into his office with a renewed sense of purpose, a stark contrast to the haunted, anger-filled boy he once was. One crisp April morning, Jordan arrived early at the headquarters. The glass facade reflected the pale pinks and soft blues of dawn, and inside, his team was already buzzing with ideas for new community projects. He paused in the lobby, taking a deep breath before making his way to his corner office. There, on the desk beside the framed picture of his father, sat a handwritten note that he'd received from Marcus a few weeks ago. "Forgiveness is the seed of change. Nurture it, and watch new life grow." That note had become a mantra for him. As he settled behind his desk, His phone rang, a video call from Marcus. With a warm smile, Jordan answered. Marcus's familiar face appeared on the screen, his expression both serious and encouraging. Jordan, Marcus began, I just heard from a community leader in Southside. They're saying that the outreach program is not only helping people get back on their feet, but also inspiring local businesses to join in. I'm proud of what you've done. Jordan leaned forward, excitement tempered with humility. Thank you, Uncle Marcus. It means a lot coming from you. I'm hoping that we can expand the program even further, maybe partner with more companies, offer skills workshops, even build a community center that's fully funded by donations and grants. Marcus nodded. I believe you will. And remember, every step forward is a victory. But be prepared, there will always be challenges. Not everyone will appreciate a man who extends forgiveness so freely, especially when the past is as painful as yours. Jordan's gaze fell for a moment on the framed photo. I know, he admitted softly, but I've learned that holding on to anger only makes the wounds worse. I choose to believe in redemption, and that includes giving people a chance to change. The conversation drifted into plans for future collaborations, ideas sparking like fireflies in the twilight of new hope. As the call ended, Jordan felt a renewed energy surging through him. Today, he resolved, he would visit one of the new community centers. His company was planning to build a center that would not only provide shelter and meals, but also classrooms and computer labs for skill training. That afternoon, dressed in a crisp light sweater and tailored trousers, Jordan drove across town to the proposed site, a modest building on the edge of a rejuvenating neighborhood. The building had been abandoned for years, its brick walls and broken windows bearing silent testimony to neglect. Yet as Jordan stepped out of his car, he saw potential in every cracked pavement and peeling paint. He spent hours walking the grounds, talking with local residents and volunteers. At one point, a group of teenagers gathered around a mural that had been recently restored on one wall, laughing and chatting in a mixture of street slang and earnest dreams. Their energy was infectious, and Jordan couldn't help but smile as he imagined a future where these young people had a safe space to learn, create, and grow. Inside the building, the air was cool and carried a faint scent of dust mixed with hope. Jordan met with a local architect, Ms. Rivera, who had volunteered her time to help design the center. They walked slowly down a long corridor, discussing ideas. I envision a place that not only serves as a shelter, but as a hub for creativity, Ms. Rivera explained, gesturing with animated passion. Imagine a space with art studios, computer labs, and a community garden. A place where every room tells a story of renewal. Jordan's eyes sparkled. Exactly. I want every person who walks through those doors to feel like they have a future. We can offer them training, mentorship, and even a chance to work with our company. This isn't just charity, it's empowerment. Their conversation continued in thoughtful detail. Every window to be replaced with energy-efficient glass, every corner painted in warm, inviting colors. As the meeting wrapped up, Ms. Rivera pressed a small blueprint into Jordan's hands. This is just a start, she said softly. There is so much we can do. That evening, after returning to his downtown office, Jordan took a moment alone in his private study. The silence was a welcome contrast to the busy day. He retrieved an old leather-bound journal from a drawer, a relic from his troubled past, its pages filled with memories of anger, betrayal, and the long nights he spent fighting to be believed. Now, as he flipped through the pages, he saw not just the scars of what once was but the outline of who he had become, a man determined to forge a better future for himself, his family, and his community. A soft knock on the door interrupted his reverie. It was Sarah, one of his trusted team leaders, with news that made his pulse quicken. Jordan, there's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent. He frowned in mild curiosity. Unexpected visitors were rare in these late hours. When he opened the door, he was met by a familiar face he had not seen since that life-changing encounter at the shelter. There, under the soft glow of the hallway light, stood Chelsea, now weathered, with gentle lines of hardship and regret etched across her face. Her clothes were simple, and the expensive aura of her former life had long since faded. Instead, there was a humble, almost fragile quality about her. "Jordan," she said, voice trembling slightly, "I wasn't sure if I should come, but I needed to see you. I need to talk." Jordan's heart skipped a beat. The old memories, once so raw, now stirred in a different tone, a mix of cautious empathy and resolve. He stepped aside and gestured for her to come in. "Please, have a seat," he said, offering a gentle smile. They settled in the quiet conference room, a space that now felt like neutral ground. For a few long moments, neither spoke. Finally, Chelsea broke the silence. "I know you have every right to hate me, Jordan," she began, voice soft yet laden with remorse, "and I don't expect forgiveness easily. But I've come to understand that I've lost everything, not just my wealth, but my dignity, my sense of self. I was consumed by my own need for control, and in the process, I hurt you, your father, and so many others." Jordan listened intently, his gaze steady, but his expression gentle. "I won't lie," he said slowly, "the past still hurts. I spent many years trying to hold on to that pain. But I also spent time learning that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, it means letting go of the chains that keep us bound to the past." Her eyes glistened with tears. "I've been living in a nightmare, Jordan. Homeless, alone, and constantly reminded of the person I once was. I've done nothing but regret my choices every single day. I want to change. I want to be better. I know I can never make up for the harm I caused, but I'm willing to work, to help out, to prove that I'm not the same person I once was." There was a long pause as Jordan absorbed her words. Finally, he spoke, his tone calm and measured. "I've already given you a second chance, Chelsea. I offered you a job with my company because I believe in redemption and in the possibility of change. What matters now is what you choose to do with that opportunity. It won't be easy, trust isn't rebuilt overnight. But if you're sincere, you have a chance to make things right." Tears rolled down Chelsea's cheeks as she nodded. "I promise you, Jordan, I'll do everything in my power to make amends. I'm ready to face the consequences of my past and work hard to earn a new future. Please help me rebuild." For a long moment, silence enveloped the room, a silence that spoke of past hurts and future hopes intertwined. Finally, Jordan leaned forward, his eyes soft with empathy. "Then let us begin," he said firmly. "I want you to work in the community outreach program. Start by learning the ropes, get to know our team, and contribute however you can. Over time, as you prove your commitment, we'll find a place for you to truly belong in this new chapter." Chelsea's voice wavered with gratitude. "Thank you, Jordan. I can't express how much this means to me. I'm so sorry for everything." "I know," Jordan replied, his voice gentle. "We both have a long way to go. But today, you've taken the first step toward change." Their conversation continued well into the evening, a detailed, heartfelt dialogue that delved into memories, mistakes, and the promise of a fresh start. They discussed the concrete steps Chelsea would take, attending workshops on ethics and professional conduct, meeting regularly with a mentor assigned by the company, and even engaging in community service projects that directly benefited those in need. Chelsea listened intently, occasionally interjecting with questions that revealed her genuine desire to understand and change. As the night deepened, the room's atmosphere shifted from one of lingering tension to tentative hope. The sound of rain tapping gently on the window provided a soothing backdrop, as if nature itself was affirming this delicate truce between past and future. The following weeks saw dramatic changes. Chelsea, now a formal employee of the Brooks Initiative, began to arrive early and worked tirelessly alongside the community team. Her first days were filled with small missteps, hesitations while handling administrative tasks, and awkward moments during team meetings. Yet, with every challenge, she demonstrated a sincere eagerness to learn. Jordan made it a point to check in on her frequently, offering constructive feedback and, sometimes, a quiet word of encouragement. One rainy afternoon, as Chelsea struggled to set up a projector for a training session at the new community center, Jordan walked in. He observed silently for a few moments before stepping up to help her. "Let me give you a hand," he said kindly, taking the cables from her trembling grip. She looked up at him, eyes wide with vulnerability. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm not used to doing things this way. I'm so out of practice." Jordan smiled reassuringly. "It's all part of the process. We all have to start somewhere. The important thing is that you're here and you're willing to learn." They worked side by side, and as the projector finally lit up the white wall with a crisp image, Chelsea let out a quiet laugh, a sound that held both relief and newfound confidence. "Thank you, Jordan. I never thought a simple act like this could feel so empowering." He patted her shoulder lightly. "Every little victory counts. Just remember, every day is a new chance." That evening, during a team meeting, one of the longtime volunteers, Carla, a kind woman in her 50s, who had seen many souls come and go, addressed the group. "I must say," she began, her eyes twinkling with wisdom, "I've been in this business for a long time. Change isn't easy, but when someone truly puts their heart into it, miracles happen. I see a change in you, Chelsea, and it gives me hope." A ripple of murmurs passed through the room, and Chelsea's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she listened. After the meeting, as the room emptied, she approached Carla. "Thank you," she said softly. "Your words mean more than you know. I'm trying so hard to be better, and sometimes I feel overwhelmed by the mistakes of my past." Carla gently embraced her. "We all have our demons, dear. What matters is that you're willing to fight them. I believe in you." Weeks turned into months, and slowly, Chelsea began to transform, not just in her work, but in her very demeanor. The once cold, calculating manner that had once defined her gave way to a more reflective, compassionate presence. In the quiet moments before sunrise, when the city was still hushed, Chelsea would sometimes stand by the window of her modest apartment above the community center, gazing out at the awakening skyline. In those moments, she allowed herself to feel regret, to acknowledge the pain she had caused, and to hope that she might someday earn forgiveness not just from others, but from herself. One evening, as the program celebrated its 6-month anniversary with a small gathering at the new community center, Jordan took the stage. The room was filled with faces, volunteers, community members, even a few former beneficiaries whose lives had been transformed by the initiative. Jordan's voice rang out clearly as he recounted the journey that had brought them all together. "I stand before you today not just as a business owner," he said, "but as someone who has learned that forgiveness and second chances are the building blocks of a better future. Each one of you has a story, a past that may be filled with pain or mistakes. But it is our choices today that define who we become tomorrow." His words resonated deeply with the crowd. When he finished, applause filled the room, a sound that was both cathartic and hopeful. In that moment, as Jordan's eyes scanned the room, he saw Chelsea standing near the back, her expression a mixture of gratitude and humility. Their eyes met for an instant, a silent acknowledgement of a past marred by betrayal and a future filled with promise. After the event, as the guests dispersed into the cool night, Chelsea approached Jordan once more. "Thank you," she said quietly, sincerity etched into every word, "for giving me a second chance not just to work, but to find myself again." Jordan's smile was gentle, with no trace of bitterness. "It wasn't about erasing what happened," he replied. It was about moving forward and building something better. I learned that holding on to hate only keeps you trapped. I choose to believe that everyone deserves a chance to change. Their conversation stretched late into the night, filled with reflective silences, moments of laughter, and even shared tears. They spoke of their dreams for the future, of the small steps that could lead to great change, and of the resilience of the human spirit. For Jordan, it was a testament that the scars of the past need not define one's destiny. For Chelsea, it was a beacon of hope that even the deepest wounds could eventually heal. In the month that followed, the Brooks Initiative continued to thrive, and Chelsea's personal journey became a living testament to the power of redemption. Her transformation was not instantaneous, it was gradual, marked by setbacks and hard lessons, but with every challenge, she grew a little stronger, a little more compassionate. Slowly, she began to repair relationships with those she had once hurt, and her role in the outreach program evolved from that of a mere employee to a mentor, an advocate for others who struggled to find their way. One afternoon, as the spring rain fell softly over Chicago, Chelsea led a workshop for a group of troubled teens. Sitting in a circle on the floor of a bright, renovated classroom, she spoke candidly about her past. "I once believed that control was everything," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I hurt people, hurt the ones I claimed to love in my misguided pursuit of power. But I learned that true strength comes from letting go, from accepting our vulnerabilities, and from working together to create something beautiful out of the ruins." A young man in the circle, his eyes searching, asked, "How did you learn to let go?" Chelsea paused, a reflective smile on her face. "It wasn't easy. It took years of facing the truth, of living with regret, and of finally realizing that every day is a chance to start over. I had to learn to forgive myself before I could hope for forgiveness from others." Her words, simple yet profound, resonated deeply with the group. In that moment, as the rain tapped against the window and the soft murmur of the city provided a backdrop, a spark of hope was ignited in each of them. Later that evening, as the workshop ended and the teens filtered out with tentative smiles, one of them approached Chelsea. "Ms. Morgan, I never thought someone like you could change. You've given me hope that I can, too." Chelsea's eyes filled with tears, and she embraced the young man. "You can. Every single one of you can. It starts with believing in yourself and taking that first step, even when it feels impossible." That night, as Chelsea returned to her modest apartment, she sat by the window and penned a letter of personal promise to herself. In it, she vowed never to forget the lessons of her past, but also to honor the gift of forgiveness that had been extended to her by Jordan. She promised to work every day to rebuild not just her own life, but to help others find the strength to rise from their own ashes. 1 year later, on a bright summer afternoon, Jordan and Chelsea met once again at a community celebration held at the News Center. The event was vibrant, a mixture of live music, art displays, and heartwarming testimonials from community members whose lives had been transformed by the initiative. As they walked together through the festivities, Jordan remarked, "It's amazing to see how far we've come. This place, it's a symbol of what happens when we choose to forgive and rebuild." Chelsea smiled, her eyes reflecting both gratitude and a hard-won wisdom. "I used to think my past defined me. But now I see it was just a part of the journey, a chapter that, painful as it was, taught me what I needed to change. I'm not the same person I once was, and I have you to thank for that chance." He squeezed her hand gently. "No, Chelsea. You made the choice to change. I only offered you a chance. The real power was always in your hands." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of several community members, all eager to share their stories of recovery and triumph. In the midst of the celebration, a young woman approached Jordan, her eyes bright with excitement. "Mr. Brooks, because of your program, I'm now enrolled in college. I never thought I'd have a future. Thank you for believing in me." Jordan's smile was genuine as he replied, "It's all of you who inspire me. Keep pushing forward." That day, as the sun set over Chicago in a blaze of oranges and purples, Jordan and Chelsea sat together on a bench outside the community center. In the soft glow of the fading light, they reflected on the turbulent past and the promising future they were building, not just for themselves, but for an entire community. "Do you ever wonder," Chelsea said quietly, "if I could have ever imagined this outcome? That after everything I did I'd end up here, helping others?" Jordan's eyes met hers, calm and understanding. "I've learned that life often surprises us. Sometimes the very pain we cause can be transformed into the greatest catalyst for change. Your journey isn't defined by your mistakes, it's defined by your willingness to rise above them." For a long, quiet moment, they sat in companionable silence, the city's distant hum and the gentle rustle of leaves punctuating their thoughts. In that moment, both knew that the future was a blank canvas, one they would continue to paint together with strokes of courage, compassion, and unwavering hope. As the weeks turned into months and the outreach program continued to grow, Jordan and Chelsea forged an unexpected partnership, one built on mutual respect, honest dialogue, and a shared commitment to transforming lives. Their conversations became a blend of business strategy and heartfelt reflection, and every challenge they faced only strengthened the bond between them. In one late evening meeting in Jordan's office, over a spread of takeout pizza and coffee, Chelsea confided, "Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night, haunted by memories. I see the faces of those I hurt, and it's unbearable." Jordan leaned forward, his tone gentle. "Then let those memories fuel your determination to do better. Use them as a reminder of what you never want to become again." She nodded, wiping away a stray tear. "I want to be the person who makes a difference. I want to be a part of something good, something that helps heal the wounds of the past." Jordan smiled softly. "Then, that's exactly what you're doing. Change isn't measured by how quickly you can erase the past, but by the strength you show in building a better tomorrow." Their dialogue, filled with small moments of vulnerability and strength, became a cornerstone of the company's culture. Employees began to see that true leadership was not about ruthless ambition, but about empathy and the willingness to confront one's own imperfections. In time, even those who had once doubted Chelsea's transformation began to recognize the sincerity in her efforts. On a bright summer day, nearly 2 years after that fateful shelter meeting, the Brooks Initiative hosted a large gala to celebrate the positive impact of the program. The venue was a converted warehouse adorned with string lights and handmade decorations, a vibrant testament to community spirit. Guests from all walks of life mingled, sharing stories of transformation and hope. In a quiet moment during the gala, as the room buzzed with laughter and music, Jordan found himself alone on a balcony overlooking the city. The cool breeze ruffled his hair as he gazed out over the skyline, a panorama of dreams realized and challenges overcome. Soon, Chelsea joined him, standing silently by his side. "Jordan," she said softly, "I want you to know that every day I work here, I'm reminded of the second chance you gave me. I'm not perfect, I never will be, but I'm trying. And that means everything to me." He turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "We all have our battles, Chelsea. What matters is that you're fighting to be better, not for others, but for yourself. In forgiving you, I've learned that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's strength. And I believe that every person has the capacity to change." They stood together, the soft murmur of the party below blending with the distant sound of city traffic. In that quiet moment, it wasn't just the memory of past pain that filled the air, but the palpable promise of a future forged through resilience, compassion, and unwavering determination. As the night wore on, the gala drew to a close. Guests departed with smiles and promises to stay involved, leaving behind a renewed sense of community. Jordan and Chelsea remained on the balcony a while longer, each lost in their own reflections. Finally, as the cool night air deepened into a peaceful stillness, Jordan spoke. "Chelsea, what do you see when you look in the mirror these days?" he asked quietly. She hesitated, her eyes distant. "I see someone who has made terrible mistakes, a person who once craved control at the expense of others. But I also see a glimmer of hope, a chance to be someone new. I see a future where I can help mend what was broken." Jordan nodded slowly. "I see the same hope. And I see a reminder that every day is a chance to rebuild. We can't change the past, but we can shape our future. And that future, our future, is worth fighting for." They sat in companionable silence, the soft glow of the city lights a promise of new beginnings. In that moment, the pain of the past had given way to the possibility of redemption, and the once broken ties were slowly being mended by trust, empathy, and the courage to start over. In the months that followed, the Brooks Initiative became a cornerstone of community transformation in Chicago. Under Jordan's leadership, and with Chelsea's dedicated contribution, the program not only expanded its reach, but also became a model for corporate social responsibility nationwide. Their story, a tapestry woven from threads of betrayal, forgiveness, struggle, and redemption, served as an inspiration for countless others. At a national conference on community development, Jordan was invited to speak about his journey. Standing before an audience of industry leaders and social activists, he recounted the painful chapters of his youth and the transformative power of forgiveness. "I learned that the greatest victories aren't won through revenge," he said passionately, "but through the courage to forgive and the determination to build a better future. When we choose compassion over bitterness, we not only free ourselves but also pave the way for lasting change." The applause that followed was thunderous, a recognition of both his personal journey and the broader impact of his work. Among the crowd, a familiar face could be seen in the back, a woman whose eyes shone with both sorrow and gratitude. Chelsea. Though she remained modest in the background, her presence was a silent affirmation of the journey they had taken together. After the conference, as the crowd dispersed into lively conversations and shared stories, Jordan found himself standing next to Chelsea in a quiet corridor. "I'm proud of you," he said quietly. "You took a leap of faith when no one else would. Not only did you rebuild your life, but you helped transform the lives of so many others." Tears welled in Chelsea's eyes as she replied, "I couldn't have done it without you, Jordan. You showed me that even in the darkest moments, there is light if we're willing to look for it. I will spend the rest of my life trying to repay that gift." He offered a gentle smile. "We're all works in progress. The important thing is that we keep moving forward together." Their words hung in the air, a quiet promise of continued effort, hope, and renewal. And as the night gave way to a new day, both knew that while the past could never be forgotten, it no longer defined them. They had chosen to forge a future built on compassion, resilience, and the enduring power of second chances. Now we turn to you. What would you do if you were in Jordan's shoes? Do you believe the system truly protects the vulnerable, or does it favor those with power? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need this reminder. Remember, the fight for justice begins with one voice refusing to be silenced. Thank you for watching, and always stay vigilant, stay brave, and stand for what is right.